Hi, everybody. Welcome to Facebook Live. I know it's going to take just a minute for everyone who is aware of this already or just finding out to come on in. So as you are coming in, please tell us where you are watching from. We would love to know where you're tuning in from. We've got Molly here who's on a laptop right here by the camera, and she is monitoring your comments, and she'll make sure that she's aware of the discussion that's happening. If it were me watching the conversation while I'm trying to talk, this would be a whole hot mess because it would be so distracting in all the wrong ways. So yeah, definitely let us know where you're watching from, and also let us know if you can hear me fine. We're using a lapel mic, which you can see here. I've got the cord tucked in my armpit, and it's all sorts of awkward. But we think that the sound is really a lot better. So can you guys chime in and let me know if you can hear me okay? Let me know if you can see us okay. Just let me know. Before I dive into all of this content, I would love to just be sure that you guys are doing okay. Do we look fine as far as you can tell? Okay.
And people say where they can hear it great.
Good.
It sounds perfect.
Okay, cool. Well, then let's do this. Let's do this. Most of you are going to be watching this back at a later time, and welcome to you as well. For those of you who are here live, thanks for joining me live. I want this to be a live discussion. This is not a formal presentation. It never is with Facebook Live. It's always just, the idea is that we have some things to share with you, and you're here live. So please, by all means, not just ask your questions, but chime in with your input as well. Today's discussion is really exciting because it's very different than our usual. Usually we're talking about things that are a little bit more related to documenting life, scrapbooking, project life. We have Appy Hour about once a month, every other month or so with Wendy and Carrie. Everything that we share ties back to cultivating a good life and recording it. And so sometimes our topics go a little bit more into the cultivating a good life part more than the memory keeping part. And that's kind of what today's topic falls into, is that category, cultivating a good life through doing our best to run a business. And this is something that I've been doing for nearly 8 years now with this business. And I am not alone in these efforts, but because it is my baby and I started it, I have a lot that I would love to share with you. And really, there's not even so, if somebody just says, what would you say about running a business, or what advice would you give? Holy cow, that's like a loaded question, right? We could talk for days and days about that. So the way that we've organized what I could maybe share with you is I just have 5 big tips that are central to me and how I run a business that I would be delighted to share with you, and we will get there. I'm going to share those with you, but also we wanted to just base what I share with you on your questions. And we had a whole lot of questions from you guys on social media before today's broadcast. So if you guys aren't bringing the questions live, I've got plenty to go from. So if you're in the mood to sit back and listen, or maybe you're doing something, multitasking, working out, folding laundry, driving while you're listening, there's nothing visual that you need to get out of this. And so feel free to multitask. We're good though, right? Okay. All right. So let me just give you, I believe that we have a lot of new people all the time. So let me just give you a really short history of what this company is and how it even came to be. This isn't story time. I would love to go into that on a totally different day where I share a lot more of that backstory, because I think it's interesting for any of us to learn about a company's story of how it became a company. But the really brief version is this. I have a background of being in this memory keeping or scrapbooking industry for more than 20 years. So when I was very young and in college, probably about 19 years old, I think is when this happened, is I happened to, the magazine called Creating Keepsakes magazine started, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, meeting the editor's mother. That's another story, really, truly a fun story. But anyway, for another day. So one thing led to another, and I got involved with Creating Keepsakes magazine, very quickly became their first creative editor, and spent 12 years doing that. Not just with the creative editor, but I wrote and published 9 books in my 20s through Creating Keepsakes, traveled a lot, taught, loved it. Toward the end of that, got into some product development, and then that led to me starting this company. A lot of the reasons why I started the company was because at that point with Creating Keepsakes, the person who started it or co-founded it is Lisa Bernson. A lot of you know of her. If you don't, she's an icon in our scrapbooking industry, and she's a very dear personal friend to me through that experience that we went through together for 12 years. And we still get together once in a while. I love Lisa. Lisa sold the company, and then it sold. And anyway, the ownership changed hands a couple of times, and I was still there through all of that. And so when we got into some product development, and I developed something called Project 365, there's some things that went kind of crazy wrong with that. It sold out like that, but there were some things that were not handled well, and it was out of my control. I was just the product developer. I was just the brain behind the development of this product, but it wasn't my company. And so when things went not great, or not the way I felt like they should have gone for customers who were kind of left in the dust in some ways and whatever, we'll go into the details here. But when that all happened, I started realizing that this is what I would do differently. This is how I would do it in a way that I feel is better for the customer, or, you know, those sort of thoughts started going through my mind. And that is really what happened, is that with those thoughts combined to the company wanting me to work more and get paid less, to put it shortly, I was out. My husband and I put a lot of thought and time and prayer into discussing that with each other, and really just trying to decide what made the most sense. And what made the most sense was to leave on very good terms with Creating Keepsakes. So thankful for the 12 years I had with them. And then we decided to start this company. So that's the backstory to how we started. It all really circulates around Project Life, which 99% of you watching know about Project Life. That's why you're tuning in. You're probably a Project Life user, or you've been following me or us through the years. So what's interesting, though, fun fact, is that when my husband and I were like, what do we even call this company? We decided to name the company just my name, just very simple, Becky Higgins, LLC, which is just a legal term for the way that the business is set up. So that's the name of the company. It's not Project Life. And the reason why we did that is because I have always felt, and my husband has always felt, like there could always be more. We can start a company. We know that Project Life is what we're doing, and everything centers around that, but there is always potential for more. There's always, you just never know. And we truly didn't know. And sometimes today, I still don't know what the future will hold. And that's why, in retrospect, I will forever and always be grateful that we were smart enough to name the company broadly, so that we can do anything and it makes sense. So if I would have named the company Project Life, then we wouldn't have been able to kind of expand beyond that now or in the future. So hopefully that makes sense. Just a little tidbit. So here we are today. I've been running this company for nearly 8 years. It's in October that we will celebrate our 8th birthday. And obviously before we launched, there was some back end work before we launched the company. That's why I say nearly 8 years. My husband and I definitely did this together. He's very much an instrumental part of how the company can even exist, even today. If it weren't for him, I'm not sure that this is something I could have pulled off on my own, even pulling in other people. The reason for that is because my husband, who is a full-time anesthesiologist and has never slowed down with that, made all the best types of sacrifices with me, in partnership with me, to figure out what the heck we were doing, because we did not know what we were doing. This was nothing we ever planned on years in advance. This was not a part of my life plan. It just wasn't. And so we had to figure out everything together. And my husband is really well-rounded. He's a smart guy. And he's also way better than I am at many things. And so when it comes to some of the legalities, the taxes, the accounting, the research on certain things, figuring out how some stuff was going to work with sourcing, or figuring out how to sell this product on Amazon, which is what we did back at the beginning. The list goes on. David has those strengths. It's not that he knew how to sell something on Amazon. Are you kidding me? Nobody knows how to do that unless you're in a situation where you got to figure it out, right? He was the one of the two of us that figured out a lot of those things, whereas I brought my strengths to the table of, obviously, this is my passion. This is what I know and live and breathe every day for over 20 years, is this whole memory keeping, scrapbooking, storytelling. That's what I do. And so when it comes to marketing ideas and in putting messages out there about all of this, we worked really well in tandem. We still do, but he's now not having to be as involved because we have a whole team. So that's where we are. That's what this company is we developed Project Life. It is a thing. It's a system that is available in physical format so that people can take their pictures, slip them into photo pocket pages. We give you all of the pre-designed journaling cards where you add your writing and your stories. All of this can be understood better when you watch some of the videos that we have on YouTube. So be sure that you check out the Becky Higgins YouTube channel. If you really are truly new to us, you will get a very clear visual of what this is. In addition to the physical product, we have the digital version, which means that you can do it on your computer. And then we have the app for iOS and Android, which is, of course, doing Project Life in the palm of your hand, which still makes me smile so big that we can do that. It's amazing. It's what I love to do. And I use the physical product as well. So anyway, that's not the topic we're going into today, but I still love and am passionate about all things Project Life. It is definitely something that our industry needed. When it came out, it really helped to bring things back because a lot of people were falling away from scrapbooking for all the understandable reasons. Too expensive, too time consuming. I don't even know where to start. I'm not creative. I don't have a whole room in my house to dedicate to this hobby. All legitimate reasons to stop scrapbooking. I get it. That's why I created Project Life as something that I needed for myself. We brought it to the masses. We figured that out, and then here we are. So that's the backstory. Now, there's a whole lot of intricacies and details that I've left out because this isn't the time and place to give you the full-blown version. I kind of want to just hang out with you one-on-one and just sit on a couch together and talk about all the stuff that you want to talk about. But that overview gives you a sense of just how this even came to be. I'm not out of nowhere. This is a more than 20-year background that I have in this space, in this community of scrapbookers and memory keeping, and I still love it, you guys. I love it. If you follow my social media, if you follow anything that I do, it's kind of hard to miss that. It's just something that I'm really passionate about. I just want to mention about social media. This is what we're doing right now is social media, Facebook Live. And this is just a piece of it. We are on YouTube. I mentioned the Becky Higgins YouTube channel. It's Becky Higgins everywhere. That's the easiest way to just kind of know how to find us. But Instagram, I love Instagram because I'm a very visual person and we're very visual directed and centered type of company, so that naturally makes sense. And we're on Pinterest as well. And so I've let Twitter go for the most part, and I'm not on some of the other channels. Periscope is definitely a thing of the past for us, and I love Facebook. I love that we have this opportunity to do Facebook Live. So we're in a lot of places on social media. The thing about social media that's worth mentioning for those of you who are running a small business is that this is what I do on social media is not a penny for the company. There's no equation of something that I shared being sponsored or things that I do that somehow make money directly. None of it is a monetizing thing. Everything that we do on social media, which does consume a lot of our time, Molly and I specifically, who are sitting here, can tell you that is a time consumption for us, and it's part of what brings us joy because we know that the content that we're putting out there is valuable. That's our intention, that's our goal, that's our vision, is that what we do on social media helps people. And at the end of the day, it is also an indirect way to help with the meat of the company in terms of monetizing, which is we have product to sell. We have an app to sell. These are things that's how we are a business. There has to be an exchange of money to be a business. And so the social media supports that. And so I just wanted to kind of put that out there with the blog and social media and everything. It's free for you. It's time for us, but at the end of the day, it's helping everybody in some way, which is really cool. And Molly will interrupt me, by the way. If you want to interrupt me and ask me something, please do. But I'm going to go ahead and share right now 5 tips that are really core to me and how I run a business and how I've not only evolved to approach the way that I run a business, but for most of these, they've been, well, actually not most, some of them are very much from the beginning. Some of them have evolved to a place of where I can actually talk about it now where I maybe didn't recognize it before. So I'm going to share with you those 5 tips. If you feel that someone you know would benefit from this broadcast, will you just tap on the share button and make sure that they know about it? They can watch it now and chime in right now, or they can watch it later, and that's cool too. After I share these 5 tips, we're going to dive into your questions. Now, quick note, I have to walk out of this door at 1:45. What time is it right now?
It is 11:21.
It's 11:21. I have to leave at 11:45. We have a short time together. We don't like to make the broadcast too long, first of all, but secondly, I have an appointment and I can't be late. And so that's just what we're given today. And if you guys feel like you want to have this discussion continued, I need to have that feedback from you, because we can either be done with this and not talk much about business and running a small business much in the future, or if you are loving where we're going to go with this and you have more questions and you want to discuss it more, we will totally build this into our schedule to do another follow-up Facebook Live broadcast. Okay? But we got to hear from you. I don't know what you're thinking, so you got to let us know. Tip number 1. Going on what I was just talking about with social media, be thoughtful and consistent when it comes to sharing content. I don't care if you are, I don't care what, I don't care, it sounds awful. It does not matter what your product or service is. If you have decided to make social media a part of your business model, and you've decided that it is, it's a thing that will support what you're doing, or whether you're monetizing it or not or whatever, being thoughtful and consistent is key. For some people, who run a small business, maybe they haven't thought much about that, and so they just kind of just throw things out there randomly, or they don't actually think ahead and they don't plan ahead. Consistency breeds momentum. And so if you really want to get your small business out there more, then you've got to stay consistent. We've always been very, very consistent, mostly because I never run out of anything to say. Shocking, I know. But when it comes to cultivating a good life and recording it, you could ask me on the spot. You could catch me at the grocery store today, this afternoon, and ask me a question, or just ask me to share something, and I would have something to say, because I love content. I love valuable content. And so that's number 1. Number 2, we're super organized around here about, whether you're by yourself, by the way, you don't have to have a team to pull this off depending on how much you're sharing, but consistency also comes from being organized, and being organized can simply just mean having a plan for X number of social shares per day, or X number of Facebook Live broadcasts per week or per month or whatever. So just being thoughtful and consistent is tip number 1. Number 2 tip, Dropbox for the win. Dropbox for organization. All of us here at the office anyone in here would be shouting amen unanimously, because we are all big fans of Dropbox. It is a cloud storage and organizational thing. You can learn more at Dropbox.com. This broadcast is not about Dropbox, so I'm not going to go in further. But when it comes to storing, backing up, organizing files, everything from images to documents to legal to whatever, it's all in Dropbox. And I trust it, and it's safe. Molly and I are literally in Dropbox multiple times a day to organize our social share lineup for the coming days. It's not even just one day at a time. Molly might come across something that she thinks that we should share, and she'll throw it in that day's folder. I might come across one of your pictures on Instagram that uses the hashtag Project Life or Project Life app, or one of you that I might follow or whatever. I'll screenshot it and I'll throw it in a folder that Molly can then pull from. We have a whole system, which really that could be its own broadcast someday. It's just our system, but it's pretty simple and it makes sense, and we use it, and we love Dropbox for so many reasons.
Someone just asked about if there's a social media schedule and how that works.
Yeah, it's a great question. So you're asking about the social media schedule. That is exactly what we do. The shortest way to describe it is that in Dropbox and within social media, we have a folder set up for every month, and within that folder, we have a subfolder for every single day, and then we plan it out. And right now, we're currently in an average of about 5 shares a day. We used to be about 9 shares a day, and we've just played with different numbers. Like I said, we never run out of things to talk about, but we also want to be intentional about not just how much we put out there, but how much we are able to handle, because we want to be responsive to your questions and comments on social media. And so if we're putting more out, that means more time we've got to spend kind of following up. And so we're always experimenting, but right now we're settling at about planning 5 shares a day. And the other strategy behind that, which is totally worth mentioning, is that we have designed that to be something that gives me cushion in the evenings. And so me as an individual, as a person, just a mom and a wife and a friend, and just living my life outside of the business, when we schedule and plan for and post about 5 shares a day, then in the evening hours when I'm not working, if there's something personal that kind of comes up that I decide to share, like I did last night with my daughter flipping her hair and I used the burst mode, that's content that I feel is valuable, that somebody might benefit from being reminded that there's burst mode on the camera or whatever, but that's not something that we had to pre-plan ahead of time. So we don't pre-plan every single thing ahead of time. A lot of what I share is spontaneous, and we have just found a balance of doing both. Tip number 3, surround yourself with the best. The best. So easier said than done, I know that. But step 1 in doing that is knowing your limits. I know my limits. I know where I have weak spots. I know where I don't have as much time as I would like to have to be able to do all the things I want to do, or that I think I can do really, really well. And so it has become increasingly important to me to surround myself with people who know how to do their job really well. And so that's all I'm really going to say about that. That is, we could dive in a whole lot deeper and we could talk about all those specific things, but you know what that means for you. And as an example, if you're a highly creative person and you've got all the ideas and you know how to market yourself and you know how to create things, build your business based on the service that you offer, the product or whatever, but you really stink at accounting, please get someone to help you with accounting so that you can focus on what you do best. If you are being constantly dragged down by the stuff that you don't do really well or that burdens you because you just don't know how to do it, or you just are out of time, you're out of sleep, that's what I mean by that. Surround yourself with the best and know your limits. Tip number 4, this is a grounding principle in my entire life and not just in business. And you guys will know this. I feel that some of you know this is coming because I'm going to say something that I say all the time, but now I'm going to talk about what it means in business. Begin with the end in mind. Quoting Stephen Covey all day long, because when I read that principle in that book that he wrote a bajillion years ago, and in that book, it's called 7 Habits of Highly, let me start that over, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Fabulous read. If you haven't read it, please, for the love, read that book, whether you're in business or not. One of the principles that he talks about is beginning with the end in mind. And I'll tell you what, if I didn't have that as a core value in how I run a business, I think I would be all over the place, because I wouldn't feel centered and trying to envision what my end goal is. And that's what that means. So with business, think about the end result. What are you trying to achieve? And I don't mean just next month or next year. I mean when you die, right? What's the legacy that you're creating when you are no longer here? What did you create with your business? No matter how big or small it was, what did it mean for you and your family? What does it mean to other people? How does it help others? How does it enrich your life? These are big, big, big picture thinking thoughts, but also begin with the end in mind, like smaller stuff. For example, social media. Social media, when you think about beginning with the end in mind, I think about my tagline for us personally, right? In our business, our tagline is cultivate a good life and record it. We should only be sharing, anything that we share should have to tie back to that tagline. If it doesn't have anything to do with cultivating a good life and recording it, then what are we doing, right? Have we lost focus? So even when I share my favorite recent recipe, does that have to do with any of that? Oh, it sure the heck does. Because part of how I cultivate a good life is trying new recipes for my family. Do you see what I'm saying? So no matter how random it might feel or seem, as long as it's back to your core values of what you have an end result, mindset to achieve, then I think you're good. Along those lines, make sure that you connect with your why. That could be a whole conversation in itself. What is the reason why you are doing what you are doing? Why did you start this in the first place? Or if you're thinking about starting a business, why are you doing it? Is it to make a buck? Because if it's to make a buck, that probably isn't going to be the thing that really connects you to what you're doing. Now, if you have a reason beyond that, we all got to make money. We all have to put food on the table. But at the end of the day, if you are really understanding why you're doing this for principles and beliefs and values that are way beyond putting a dollar in your wallet, then what are those reasons? And if it's been a while since you've thought about that or connected with it, I would encourage you to think about that. Why did you do it in the first place? And that helps to ground you, and it helps to center you, and it helps you to begin with the end in mind. So the next time you pull together some social shares, or the next time you write a blog post, or the next time you take on a project or develop a new product or adjust the service that you offer, before you do any of that, connect with your why. And also, one more thing on that, point number 4, this tip number 4, is to be genuine. When I think about beginning with the end in mind, part of the legacy that I have hope to have already built and to continue to be building is that I am true to who I am. It has been tempting at times to adjust who I am based on what I think other people are being successful with or how they are. And I've dabbled a little bit in that confusion and like, wait, who am I? I am who I am. My style and my personality and my flaws and my insecurities and my openness about certain things is just who I am. And that's just what you're going to get around here. And my team is the same way. They are who they are. They embrace who they are, and we are just who we are, right? That's all that I think that I would hope for in you and running your business. If you are genuine with me, I am more likely to follow you. If you are genuine with me and open about what is important to you in life, even outside your business, then I'm more likely to tap into your product or your service because you're interesting to me. You're not just putting on a facade. It's kind of easy to tell when people are just putting on their best and they just never are genuine in general. You know what I mean? Tip number 5, and my last tip before I answer your questions, remember that your real life connections, and I'm going to even say your heavenly connections, like your relationship with God, are more important than your online connections. When it comes to running a business right now in 2017, social media and online community, which you guys are part of our online community, it's a real thing. It's an important thing. It's an awesome thing. I love it. I love this. I love you. I love that we can connect. These are all great things. But there's nothing more important to me than the real life relationships that I have with my family and my dearest friends and with my Heavenly Father. These are things that are, and my Savior, right? These are things that are important to me. They're a part of my core. And if I lose sight of that and over prioritize my online relationships over those, then I think I've failed myself and I've failed my family. And so I think in business, that is a point that I felt like I wanted to share because it matters that we make sure that those online relationships, which are important, are not trumping our real life relationships. Okay. Woo! I don't have much time to answer questions, and I do have a lot of the ones that were asked before. So Molly's going to let me know what questions are coming up right now, and I will answer anything, and I'll let you know if I can't answer it.
Okay.
Okay.
As a small business owner, what is your best tip to overcoming days that you are feeling super discouraged?
Discouraged. Okay, so if you're feeling super discouraged, and I've seen those days, I've seen a lot of those days, being in tune, being in touch with your why, like what we talked about earlier, is huge, because if you have forgotten your purpose of why you're doing it, it is going to be easier for you to feel frustrated. Having said that, a real tangible thing that comes to mind, and I didn't have time to think about how to answer that because it's just off the fly, nor have I had time to think about any of these because we just printed them really quick from social media. So that's my little disclaimer. For me, I'm a break taker. So if I'm feeling super overwhelmed or discouraged or like I can't get this figured out, I'm frustrated, I will step away. I will step away from whatever is frustrating me, whether it's an email dialogue with a partner that's not working out right, or maybe it's a frustration with a project that we're working on, or maybe we're frustrated not knowing how to handle a customer service issue or whatever. I will step away and I will take a break. And taking a break, like during a normal work day, might be just set that to the side, work on something else, and come back to it in an hour, right? That's what that could mean. But I'm a big break taker in my life, meaning I have tried really hard to get much better about not working on weekends. And weekends to me are Saturday and Sunday. And they are very intentional times for me to literally take a break from work And you'll still see me post stuff on social media. I handle that differently. I have a whole opinion about that for myself. It's not for everybody, but I've evolved in how I approach that and why I approach it and what my strategy in that is. It's very, very intentional. But when it comes to taking true working breaks over the weekend, that has helped me to be less frustrated when the fires come up. And so that's how I would answer that.
What gave you the courage to start your own business?
Courage. My husband has a big part of that because he, as a non-scrapbooker, as a non-memory keeper, he's always been supportive of what I do. He knows that it's important to me. And so that cheerleading effect from him, and my mom, by the way, my mom is like my number one cheerleader. Love you, Mom. That's beneficial and that's helpful for sure. Having said that, I know that everyone doesn't have a built-in support system, and I recognize that for what it is. And so to answer it a little bit more broadly that I feel will appeal to more people is that the courage that came from me has really been the feelings that I've had just in my own heart and soul. I knew what I was supposed to do. I maybe had doubts, and yes, there were risks involved, all sorts of risks involved in doing it. But when my head hit the pillow every night, I knew I was supposed to do this. I knew it. I knew it because I felt it. And we all have that benefit of being in tune with ourselves enough, and hopefully being in tune with God and the promptings that we receive to do what we feel we're supposed to do. And so that's probably the best way to explain. I don't know how to explain it any differently, that I gained that courage is through just those feelings.
Perfect. What is the story behind your development of the pocket pages? What was the inspiration?
Okay. And can you guys hear Molly okay? Are they hearing your questions okay? What's the inspiration behind the pocket pages? Like, how did that happen? So I've been a traditional scrapbooker my whole life. That's kind of, and I already said in the beginning, my backstory. So if you missed that first part, definitely go back and watch that because it explains how the company became one. But in terms of specifically the pocket pages, the way that evolved or the way it happened is that as a traditional scrapbooker, I was feeling really frustrated with kind of the time consumption and the creative energy that it was requiring to do those pages. And I'm a creative person, but I also was like having babies and working full time, and how can I keep up with this? I love picture taking, I love memory keeping, but oh my goodness, how do you keep up with this? And so I decided to experiment with something one year without even telling at the time my boss or anyone at Creating Keepsakes magazine. And what that was Project 365. That's a term that's been well known in the photography industry for many years, but the idea is that you take one picture a day, or you fine tune and get yourself to one picture a day, and that's your picture of the day. And so I just thought one year that I would, I keep doing my work, I keep writing my articles and contributing how I was at Creating Keepsakes magazine, but on the side in my personal life, I was just going to experiment with this idea instead of creating theme-based or event-based traditional scrapbook pages. So what I would do is take a picture a day, and that's it. Like I would, focus on the one picture. And I didn't have an album to put it in because I'm so used to traditional scrapbooking. So I went over to Target, and the best thing I could find was just one of those photo albums that have the slots where you can slip in. In this case, it was a 3-up, like three 4x6 pictures. So it's like, 6x12. So I would slip my pictures of the day in there, but I did not like writing on the little spine, the captions. And so I would go into Photoshop with each picture. I would add the caption of like what the picture was, because I'm a big believer. You got to put words with pictures. Got to know what the story is. And so I would add that, and then I would slip them in, and I'm like, okay, this is great, and I love this, but I'm spending time going into Photoshop before I even print the picture. And anyway, it wasn't jiving, that whole like rhythm, but at the same time, that documenting that I was doing was phenomenal. I was capturing better everyday moments, which are so important. Just as important, if not more important sometimes, than the big stuff, the graduation and birthday parties and trips and wedding. And, these everyday moments were being better captured than they had before. And so I was excited. And then I'm going to try to summarize the story. That's where the wheel started spinning. And I'm like, I want to take these pictures, but I want them to be presentable in a scrapbook not just a photo album. And how do I make that happen? And so that's when the idea came to use divided pages where you just slip the 4x6 photos in, and then to design the pre-designed journaling cards where you write your journaling and everything slips into pockets. So at the time, yes, there were 4x6 page protectors, the kind that like 12x12 with 4x6 pockets. Like the pocket page isn't something that I invented. I'm using all the air quotes because I'm wanting to make sure that I'm not trying to take credit for stitching down the middle of a page protector. But what was my brainchild was the system of pocket pages, journaling cards, 4x6, 3x4 together, doing the math, figuring out how that fits into not just design A, but all of the different designs, and it becoming a full-blown system. Thanks for asking a great question. I love that. What time is it, Molly?
11:41.
Oh my gosh, you guys. So
Should we do one more?
we'll do one more question, and then we are definitely gonna do another one of these. We might need to do it sooner rather than later. I gotta look at my calendar. I might do this again tomorrow. I really could, maybe.
Yeah.
Let me think about that. I need your feedback though. Please comment, and I'll look at the comments this afternoon. Let me know if you feel like you're just wanting more sooner rather than later, then I might jump on tomorrow. I might do that.
A lot of good questions.
There's a lot of good questions that have been asked online ahead of time. Okay, what's the other live question?
Okay. Do you utilize outside businesses or services for your business, or do you do everything in-house?
I love that question. That's so good. Thank you, whoever asked that question. I don't know if we have a name with that.
It's Dawn.
Dawn, thank you for asking the question. So I have, yes, all day, yes. So I have this desire to keep my company, my core company, Becky Higgins LLC, kind of cozy. I like being in this little office with my little group of people, and I like that. I don't want to go like crazy corporate, not anytime soon, right? And so with that desire, my business strategy and the way that I do things is to develop and form partnerships with third parties and with outside resources who are better than we are at doing certain things. Case in point, we partnered up with American Crafts, which is a company based in Utah. We're in Arizona. I've known about American Crafts for 20 years because of my work with creating keepsakes. I would see them all the time at these trade shows. I reviewed their product. They advertise in our magazine. Like, we've always had a relationship. But when I started my company and developed Project Life and got it out into the marketplace through Amazon, I did that because I don't know how to get it into stores. I don't know how to figure that out. We were also having a lot of hassle with sourcing, a lot of hassle, and some just really crazy experiences with that. And so when American Crafts reached out and we started talking, I realized that all of this was just clicking, that they could then take over the sourcing and the distribution. And so that's what my partnership with American Crafts is. They're not a part of my company, but they are a partner to the company in terms of sourcing and distribution. And so that means that any retail store that wants to carry Project Life, they order from the sales team, the sales force that American Crafts has. They also have that distribution in place, the sourcing. They have a full-blown, what's the word? They have a full-blown, oh my gosh, I'm totally losing my vocabulary, but they have it all built in. They have a whole infrastructure. Maybe that's the word I'm thinking of. They have a whole infrastructure of all of this in place so that we just do what we do really well, and then they do that to get it into the stores. And that partnership is exactly why you guys can find Project Life at Michael's and Hobby Lobby and Joann and all the independent retailers. It still lasts for Amazon and of course our shop, shopbeckyhiggins.com. But yeah, they are the reason why we could do that. I did, fun fact, have a meeting with Michael's to try to make that happen before I was partnered with American Crafts. And it's like we were too small in terms of what we could make happen. And so when we partnered with American Crafts, then they could do it, right? Because American Crafts has that all built in. So yes, that's one example, but we have several partnerships like that where it allows us to do more and be bigger and have a farther reach to reach more of you around the world than we could do on our own. The app is different because we have an app developer. Again, he's not in-house. He's an app developer, third party that we've tapped into that is awesome. We love you, Devin. And he does that. But you guys watching from all around the world, if you're using the app, that's just us. It's us with Devin. And of course, Apple and Android, like of course the back end of how that works, but we didn't partner with any sort of firm or anything like that to make that happen. Probably more questions coming in. Oh, you guys. Okay,
They
so
all want you to do more tomorrow.
okay, so maybe I don't feel obligated at all. I wish I want to look at my phone and look at my schedule really quick, and it's right there filming this. So I will find a way to make this work so that I can jump on Facebook Live tomorrow. If you're following me here on Facebook or social media, we will do a post later today announcing what time that is. Are we good?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so that's it because I have to go. I love you guys. I appreciate you being here. And I just want to say that I can tell some of you just through the years of doing this, I can tell that so many of you are running your own business or you're interested in starting your own business. And I want to be your cheerleader. I am not a mentor in terms of like one-on-one. I don't do that. I can't even possibly imagine carving out the time to be that person. And yet I am a female entrepreneur, a mompreneur, a business owner who believes in what I do, and so I do it, and I want to instill that confidence in you if I can. And so we will continue this conversation tomorrow. Add your questions right here on Facebook if you want, or just show up live when we do that tomorrow, and then we'll talk more about it. Okay, I gotta go to my appointment. Bye, guys.